You're welcome. Now, in our first story, managers of the recommissioned Accra Regional Hospital have dismissed media reports suggesting the newly refurbished facility is not functioning, saying it will be operational by Monday, 22nd May. The assurance follows a raging controversy over the sacking of the hospital's embattled medical director, Dr. Thomas Anaba, who is fighting his dismissal. As Joy News' Zarina Amandi reports, a new director is preparing to take over the facility from next week.
Within the facility, but it's one thing also receiving patients and performing surgeries and making sure that all those other services are being rendered. It's one thing being within the facility.
And we'll bring you more on that story, but let's move over to the National Health Insurance Authority because its Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Samuel Ano, says the authority's reserves are empty. At a staff debate Friday to send off workers and also outline his vision for the authority, Dr. Ano revealed the need to improve and increase its sources of funding.
The NHIA is at a state where one would say it is almost bankrupt, in that we have no reserves and we owe people so much. And this has come about because we have increased our membership so much, but we have not increased the funding appropriately. So we'll be looking critically at the funding, both from government, and we'll be encouraging new stakeholders, the media, the members of the scheme, to also try and contribute their little widow's mite also to the scheme. We want the people to own the scheme. We want the scheme to be more accountable to the people in terms of what we use their money for. Once we're able to achieve that, we think the scheme will be on a stronger footing and a sustainable footing. Secondly, there's also the perception that a lot of the claims we are paying are fraudulent. Some of the expenditure, even administrative costs, are also too high. Now, this is an area we are going to drive our attention to. We are going to ensure that the claims that we vet and pay are the ones which we are supposed to pay, and we are going to rid it of all fraudulent claims. We are going to make sure administrative costs are also trimmed down in a way that is as efficient as possible. And once we're able to achieve this, we believe that the scheme will be on a stronger foundation.
Well, the CEO also added that all forms of claim preparation and payment, the manual system, will go through e-claim system. He says this is a sure way of reducing fraudulent claims and administrative costs.
The e-claims is an electronic way of processing the claims sent to us from the service providers. If you go to see a doctor, or you go to a pharmacist, or you go to a midwife, the services they provide to you, they are supposed to send the cost and the type and the description of the services they gave you to us. They most of the time sent it to us on paper. So we have 4 big claim processing units where we have employed a lot of people, and we are paying a lot of money for these areas that we are renting. For them to manually go through these papers, processing them one after the other to see whether what they have brought us is valid to pay or not. It takes a lot of time. It makes the time when we have to pay the subscribers take too long. So the e-claims is supposed to electronically take the claims. So the people who look after our patients will send their claims to us electronically. We will process it electronically, and then we will pay them also electronically. So it makes everything more efficient, faster, and it raises a little bit of the fraudulent claims also out.
Are you going to get rid of the manual process?
We want to get rid of the manual processing as much as possible.
Now, issues of claims payments has been a major issue for the NHIA, but the new CEO says under his administration, this will be resolved. He adds that claims for 2 months would hit service providers' accounts by Monday.
I want to thank them for the patience, the tolerance. We want to thank our members also, the people of Ghana, for their patience and their tolerance in the midst of all these debts that we haven't paid, putting a lot of the service providers into serious trouble. A lot of them are under attack from their bankers. A lot of them are under attack even from our own receiver of revenue. A lot of them are under attack for VAT that they haven't paid and goods they haven't paid also to other businessmen. But in the midst of all these hardships, they have been tolerant with us. We want to assure them that we are making every effort to try and get money to pay them. This payment, which is going out today, which most subscribers will receiving on Monday, will be the 4th payment since we assumed office. Now, this month, the one going this week, next week, will probably be twice of what they received the previous one. Previously, they were being paid maybe 1 month at a time. They'll probably receive about 2 months this time. And probably sometime in June, July also, there'll be more payments. So we're working along the clock to try and double up and reduce the debt stock.
Let's stay on the issues of health because the La District Police has arrested a 41-year-old who has been operating as a doctor at Choco. The suspect, who carried out an abortion for a 22-year-old girl who contacted him for help. Subsequently, after the act, the lady pleaded she could not make payment because of financial constraints. Now, the self-styled doctor suggests she leaves her iPad as collateral. When she could not get the money to pay, the suspect invited her to his makeshift operating room where he had sex with her for 4 days. The La police have so far retrieved some dressing and splinter forceps from the structure where he operates at Choco. There's more in this report.
There was this guy who stays in La here at Trade Fair and came to report at this station that somewhere December she got pregnant, and then a friend introduced her to one Dr. Godwin Jaja. So she called the doctor and then discussed with him, and the doctor asked her to come. So the doctor picked her to his office at Bukum and went to perform an abortion for her. Meanwhile, she told the doctor that she's not having money, and the doctor asked her to deposit something down, that is any property of hers. So she gave her iPad to the doctor. So after the abortion, the doctor asked her to go. When she went and she had the money to go and pay, the doctor, when she alleged that when she calls the doctor tells her he's on a meeting, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So apparently the money also she was having to give to the doctor, she spent it. So when the doctor called her to bring the money, she couldn't get the money. So the doctor called her to come. When she went, the doctor said then he will sleep with her so that will be off what she will use to pay him. So then she has to pay the doctor in kind. And then she also agreed. But when the doctor finished with the act, he locked her in a room and told her he's coming. So always the doctor goes and come and sleep with her for 4 days. According to her, she don't bath. Only the doctor will buy her food. And then after that, the doctor said he will give her 400. But the 400 didn't come. Her iPad also didn't come. So we have to follow that up. And then we are about to get to where he was operating at Bukum. And then some implements were retrieved from his supposedly office.
You're watching Joy News Prime. I'm Araba Kumsin. We're taking a short break, but still to come, the Asante-Hene Otumfuo Setutu II asks Lands and Natural Resources Minister to engage in more dialogue with small-scale miners to ensure they comply with government's ban on illegal mining. We'll go over to the Ashanti region live for an update on the minister's tour. You're welcome back. Now to the Ashanti region, where the Asante-Hene Otumfuo Setutu II has asked the Lands and Natural Resources Minister to engage in more dialogue with small-scale miners to ensure they comply with government's ban on illegal mining. The Asante-Hene's call comes in the wake of threats by the small-scale miners to return to the mining sites following the ban. Otumfuo Setutu II, who assured the sector minister of his unflinching support to help end galamsey in the country, said government's efforts will only succeed if they educate the miners on the need to halt the menace. He was speaking when the minister paid a courtesy call on him as he begins a 3-day tour of some illegal mining sites and some forest reserves in the Ashanti region. Here is Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report.
According to the Asante Hene, ending galamsey in Ghana will take serious political commitment by the government and urged the minister not to relent on his effort to end the menace. He observed illegal mining activities have over the years claimed lives and destroyed farmland and criticized state institutions such as the Environmental Protection Agency and Minerals Commission, among others, for doing little to fight galamsey. The Asante Hene was, however, excited about government's commitment to end the menace and lauded the ministry for its efforts so far, pointing out the exercise will be fruitless if halted.
My concern is we have agencies who are responsible for monitoring and evaluating whatever is done, and they never did anything to be able to protect these things. Sure. EPA, the Minerals Commission that issued licenses, the EPA that is supposed to look, monitor to see whether the environmental situation is, what were they doing? Sure. These are the issues we have to ask. Now we are stopping them. But then we need to also look at it that whilst we are stopping them, the youth who were employed, who didn't have employed, what are we going to do? How do we reclaim the lands and all those things now? Sure. That is when we need the expertise of the Australian government and others to help. Sure. Because if we are not very careful now, okay, we are stopping them now. But if it is a 9-day wonder, I'm sorry, then it will start again.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister Peter Amewu says government's priority is protecting natural resources and insists his outfit is on course to end the menace. He is particularly unhappy with licensed miners who deliberately destroy river bodies in search of gold.
Anybody that is found to be working or mining in water bodies, mining very close to water bodies, mining with the use of chemicals that are not acceptable, cyanide, mercury, mining in forests and distractions of the forest, mining without reclamations of the land, all those are described as galamsey operators. So His Royal Highness, you may have a license, but for some reasons you may be found engaged in 1 or 2 of these activities. You are equally undertaking an illicit mining. What we have done as a government is to temporarily halt issuance of new licenses. We have placed moratorium on that. We have also banned small-scale mining activities for a period of 6 months. Going forward, we intend to sanitize the system, and so that we'll come back again and re-engage our Ghanaian youth, our brothers and sisters, to engage in mining in a more sustainable environment.
Australian High Commissioner Andrews Barnes, who was also at the Mayshia Palace to support the minister, lauded government's effort at clamping down on illegal mining.
Australia has a long and successful history in managing mining, and we want to do whatever we can to help the government now to tackle the problem of galamsey. We have a lot of technical expertise in land reclamation and in land management and in regulation of mining, and we want to work very closely with the Minister, His Honourable John Peter Amewu, and his ministry to do whatever we can to help them.
Now let's still stay on this issue a while longer, because the Lands and Natural Resources Minister John Peter Amewu has assured small-scale miners government will not stop them from the mining business. He says the NPP-led administration would rather make it more friendly and sustainable. Mr. Amewu was, I beg your pardon, Mr. Amewu was speaking to the miners in Kumasi as part of his tour of the region.
I am extremely excited because most of you here have managed to chase out some operators from the river bodies. Where were you able to do that? Where were you doing that? Where were you chasing those who were using the shamfens and the 222? Because they are destroying the waters. And those are the illegality that we are talking about. It might not necessarily be you, but because of the actions and inactions of the few, some of the majority are suffering. You have constituted yourself to a group for us to fight a common fight. This is the fight we are fighting. We are not stopping you from mining. That one, as a government, we will not do that. Under no circumstances would I say stop mining. We're not going to do that. What we have done as a government, which I am implementing currently, there is a moratorium on issuance of licenses. As you know, we have not issued any licenses. This government took power. We are also suspending all mining activities. Please get it clear. For a period of at least 6 months. Why are we suspending that? We are suspending that because we want you, your outfit, together with our outfit, with other necessary stakeholders, to help us clean the system. I didn't instruct you to start cleaning the system when we had that initial engagement. What you have done was brilliant. Some of your group were all over the river bodies trying to burn chamfres, throwing the people away. That is the exercise we have all commenced. In every society that there is going to be a gain in future, few people must suffer for it.
Meanwhile, political party activists, including those of the opposition NDC, have met in Kumasi to deliberate on how to end illegal mining in the country. Let's go back to our top story. And managers of the recommissioned Accra Regional Hospital have dismissed media reports suggesting the newly refurbished facility is not functioning, saying it will be operational by Monday, 22nd May. The assurance follows a raging controversy over the sacking of the hospital's embattled medical director, Dr. Thomas Naba, who is fighting his dismissal. As Joy News' Zarina Amandi reports, a new director is preparing to take over the facility from next week.
The Accra Regional Hospital has been in the news over the last few days for all the bad reasons. The sacking of the hospital's medical director, Dr. Thomas Anaba, who described the order to leave as unfair and is resisting it, as well as media reports the hospital has been closed down. In the meantime, government has appointed Dr. Emmanuel Srefenyo to act in his stead. Dr. Srefenyo chaired his first meeting today as he prepares to take full charge of the new facility on Monday. The acting medical director has been meeting with heads of the various departments in the hospital to propose a transition plan for migrating to the new hospital complex and also introduce him to them.
The hospital has been operationalized, and you saw the program on TV the last time. However, to move there fully and physically, we have to follow a plan. And we've finished completing on that plan. We've put that plan together. And from Monday, we'll be physically present in the facility.
The acting medical director dismissed fears that the new hospital facility has been closed down, adding it will be operational on Monday.
It's one thing being within the facility, but it's one thing also receiving patients and performing surgeries and making sure that all those other services are being rendered. So these are the other things that we are putting in place currently, so that by Monday, physically, when you come there, you will see that service is being physically delivered. On a daily basis, we are having meetings to plan the full transition into the place.
Head of administration at the hospital, Emmanuel Tadi, added the hospital is operating smoothly despite fears by sections of the public that their work might be affected by the ongoing controversy surrounding the changeover of management.
There's a process to change signatories. So when we have activated the process, once we complete the process, the new director can sign documents. Are you getting it? We have a procurement unit. The unit has not been dissolved, so it will handle all procurement issues. So as far as leadership is concerned, there's no vacuum and there's no emergency in the hospital. The hospital is running normally.
Although most of the workers declined to speak on the matter, some of them told Joy News it is business as usual. And this patient confirms that.
They have been attending to us. The workers are at post and everything is normal.
Dr. Anaba has been transferred back to the University for Development Studies, from where he was assigned to the Accra Regional Hospital. For now, the leadership of the hospital has declined to speak on the controversy which came alongside Dr. Anaba's transfer. Zarina Mandi for Joy News.
Now, following government's decision to transfer the hospital's medical director, Dr. Thomas Anaba, as some members of the minority say they will haul the health minister before, beg your pardon, Parliament for what they describe as an unfair transfer. Richard Kwashiga is MP for Keta, and he joins us live on the line. Many thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers.
All right, so what is the minority's main concern with the decision by government to transfer Dr. Anaba?
Thank you so much. I think that this is becoming one too many, and we think that it is wrong. The needed procedures are not being followed. Dr. Anaba is engaged, not through a political means, but then we are an impression created that his position was political. We think that the first letter issued by the minister to Dr. Anaba in itself sums it all up, that there was no legal basis for whatever transfer that is being talked about now. Initially, the minister only asked him to step aside for his deputy to take over, and that is part of some restructuring that they're doing at the hospital. We think that that does not fit within the logical frame of our laws and must be contended. As for the transfer being talked about,
Mr. Kwashiga, I beg your pardon, just a minute. If I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that his transfer is illegal?
That the initial letter sent to Dr. Anaba, which I have signed, never talked about transfers. The transfer matter being raised is an afterthought. And clearly, the premise for my concern, or the minority's concern, is the initial letter from the minister to Dr. Anaba, which asked him to step aside for his deputy to step in his shoes for as part of some restructuring that's been done at the hospital. We think that that is wrong. We think that that offends the labor laws of this country. And we think that that offends the Constitution of Ghana. And that some Ghanaians' rights are being infringed upon. And I think that we cannot allow this kind of impunity to continue. This is a nation of laws. And President Nana Akufo-Addo, when he swore on the 7th of December, assured the Ghanaian people that he will uphold the Constitution of Ghana. You know, and this is just one of several of these situations happening across the country. As I speak to you, I have received several reports from various groups who have been dismissed wrongfully from their workplaces. Name them: National Health Insurance, DVLA, Youth Employment, and these are in their hundreds. We think that this is an undermining of our democracy, an undermining of the Constitution of Ghana. And every Ghanaian, every well-meaning Ghanaian, must raise his or her voice against this. And I speak in my capacity as the deputy ranking member of the Committee on Employment and Labor Relations of the Parliament of Ghana. And we will hold all these ministers and all those who are responsible for this wrongful dismissal before Parliament when Parliament resumes. We will file the urgent questions and we will follow the legal processes to ensure that the Ghanaians' right is not trampled under feet by any individual. We think that, yes, the Constitution gives the president powers, even powers that I think a good president should need, and too much powers for a bad president to have. Meanwhile, the president is going beyond bounds.
And Mr. Kwashiga, what are your expectations, or the minority's expectations, even as you prepare to haul, as you say, these ministers before Parliament for reasons for dismissing or even transferring some of these directors and persons at these state institutions?
Our expectation is that with all these concerns being raised, they will revert to do the proper thing. Just like how the Minister of Finance, having realized that he has wrongfully withheld salaries of people who were not ghosts, have actually come out to apologize and has decided to do the right thing. Honorable Ajumamenu is my colleague in Parliament, my senior colleague. He was chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, of which I was a member, and he knows what is right and what is proper, and he must not be doing the wrong thing.
All right, many thanks. We'll have to leave it here. And that is MP for Keta, Richard Kwashiga. You're watching Joy News Prime. I'm Marva Kumson. We're taking a short break. We're back with business. You're welcome back. Time for business now. And to give us all those details, here is Daryl Kwao.
Hi, Arba.
Hi, Daryl. How's it going?
I'm doing very great. Well, it appears that some licensed companies are dealing in the sale of illegal fuel, and the Minister of Energy is saying the government is going to crack the whip. He's been addressing oil marketing companies today.
Government has been cracking a lot of whips lately.
Well, we hope that we deal with this because it's having an impact on our oil sector and revenue as well.
All right.
All right. Thanks for making a date with us here on Joy News Prime Time for Business. Government has indicated it will withdraw the license of any company found to be engaged in illegal sale of fuel in the country. This is part of additional measures set to be introduced to help deal with the issue. The state is said to be losing millions in revenue. The latest move by government follows reports that some licensed companies are engaged in this activity. Energy Minister Boaji Jako, who disclosed this at a meeting with oil marketing companies today, said government is committed to dealing with the issue despite the political cost.
We'll agree that in most cases, the criminals around us, when they are caught, we will be the first to appeal for their release. We will be the first to threaten that if you jail them, we will not vote for you. We will be the first to say that if we implement this policy, 2020 is around the corner. But we cannot continue like that. And we must not continue like that. I'm inspired by the example of a former US President, Cleveland. He's the only president in the American history who has lost an election 4 years later, come back and won it by a landslide. And what did he do? He was taking an action, a policy action, as a democratic president, and his party and the whole nation went against. Cleveland, you take this action, you cost us his election. Says, I'll take it and I'll cost you the election because this is what is good for America. He did. He lost the election, went and sat quietly home. But within 4 years, America saw the good in his policy. And when he came back, instead of having won by 52% in the previous 4 years, he won by 68%.
Well, importers of petroleum products say they welcome government's latest stance on the issue. We can hear from Senyo Hosi, who is Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors.
When you dump, you are evading tax. And people must be treated as criminals when they are caught in the act. In time past, people who are just giving some fines, that's nonsense, with all due respect, to just, keep it there. No, not at all. We shouldn't treat crime like that. Tax evasion is tax evasion. You don't tell the people for having diluted products you're getting, no, not at all. And I'm very happy the NPA chief executive himself has stated that they are going to review some of their administrative laws, or regulations to make some of these actions a lot more punitive. It has to be draconian to disincentivize people from getting involved. Another thing we mentioned was the issue of visibility. Corruption thrives amidst opacity. So it's important that there's visibility for industry. So if you are introducing tracking, there should be other people who can really, we should encourage people to have access to it and track things. All right, not just people sitting in a control room in the NPA, because when that happens, this involves a lot of money. People making $100,000 or 100,000 cedis, on a single truck. If I'm going to give you some 10,000 cedis, it's easy to compromise people working at certain low levels of the state apparatus. So we should create visibility. Once other people can see, somebody knows that if I bribe this person, it will not be enough to make sure I don't get caught, because we should all see the same thing and, like the minister said, come to the same conclusion.
And we'll still stay with energy issues. The country is likely to experience challenges with power supply in the next 3 months. Now, this follows confirmation that the intermittent Jubilee shutdowns could continue till the end of the year instead of next month. There's more in the following report. Group Chief Executive of Tallow, Paul McDad, during his recent visit to Ghana, confirmed reports that the brief shutdowns will now end by close of this year. He, however, promised they were working hard to complete works before the set scheduled date. The Tallow boss also hinted gas from the Trinidad in Rentome 10 oil field should come on stream from August to help minimize the expected challenge. But the problem here is that within these 2 months, if there is any shutdown, the country could be losing about 250 megawatts of power from the Ameri plant, which relies heavily on gas from the Atobo gas processing plant, a development that could affect power supply in the country, unless there is enough crude oil available, but that could come at a high cost to the country. The engineers working in the power sector have also told Joy Business that the brief changes in type of fuel for the power plants might not be safe for the infrastructure. However, the assurance from sources close to government and the power generating sector is that the country might have to turn to Ivory Coast for power supply or import enough crude oil to power the plants in the short term. Well, away from that, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has begun meeting to review the health of the economy. The committee is expected to announce a new policy rate on Monday at the end of the meeting. It's the first meeting chaired by the new boss of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison. While economist Dr. Eric Esibe is not expecting any major policy shifts as Dr. Ernest Addison chairs the meeting for the first time. The last meeting in March, if you recall, chaired by the past governor, Dr. Abdul Nasir Isaku, saw a reduction of the policy rate by 200 basis points, the biggest drop in the last 10 years. This brought the central bank's benchmark lending rate to 23.5%. Well, economist Dr. Eric Osesibe says he only expects the governor to focus on creating a balance between stability and growth.
Expect any major policy shift, but because of his understanding of the Ghanaian economy, the workings of the Ghanaian economy, I'm sure he will bring it to bear on the analysis. Let's not forget that he used to be the head of research at the bank, and so he really have a good understanding of the economy. And so I believe that that will have some kind of positive impact on the analysis. And I also think that he can really maybe have more quantitative easing, more growth enhancing policies, you know, on the workings of this current board.
Help us understand the expectations about the decision on the policy rate. Is it going to be reduced? Is it going to be increased? Specifically by how many basis points and why?
Well, I really think that it should reduce. It should go down in that if you look at the current macroeconomic conditions, you realize that most of the indicators are on a positive path. The inflation has been on a downward trend for many months now. We've also seen some stability in the exchange rate. And also the treasury bill rate is also very low, about 13.5%, thereabout.
On his part, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwin of the University of Ghana Business School also thinks the policy rate will be reduced.
My understanding is that the last MPC meeting actually signaled to the economy that it is time to actually take their legs off the accelerator and reduce the policy rates, because perhaps the balance of the risk is more towards growth now than the inflation. So in that case, then it's more prudent and accommodating to lower the policy rate. So consistent with that signal, I expect that this will be reinforced in the subsequent meetings, actually, to give more meaning to the fact that we want to cut the private sector, we want to ease the restrictions on the growth drivers, especially of the private sector, more in terms of what the central bank has control over, in terms of finance input costs. So that is what I expect. But given the fact that world oil price is expected to pick up, given that the last inflation figure showed a marginal increase, I do not expect a drastic reduction in the policy rate.
And so we've got our eyes on the MPC meeting for you. Hopefully on Monday we get to know the decision of the central bank. And that'll be it for business. My name is Daryl Kwal. There's more news after this break.
You're welcome back. Now, President Akufo-Addo says eradicating activities of illegal mining, also known as galamsey, remains his government's top priority, describing as unacceptable the level of destruction caused to the environment and water bodies by illegal miners. The president said the Environment, Science and Technology, as well as the Lands and Natural Resources Ministries, are working on various strategies to end the practice. The president was responding to questions from Ghanaian residents in Guinea, where he is undertaking his second leg of West African tour. First, let's hear cheers from some Ghanaians resident in Senegal.
Galamsey, well, I don't know whether you're following events in Ghana. You are. Yeah, there's a big war on Galamsey in Ghana. We can't afford to allow, our country has been for centuries a country of mining. Our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers had been mining in our country. In fact, the first, if you like, modern city in Ghana, Elmina. Elmina means the mine. That's all it means in Portuguese, is the mine. So as far back as that in the 16th century, people recognized that mining was important for the economy of our country. But what we cannot have done is for the mining to compromise our future environment. 60%, we're told, of the water bodies in Ghana today threatened by mining activities. But that's unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. The land across our country, one of the advantages of campaigning is that you get to see Ghana. And it was this last campaign, the exposure that I had to what was actually going on the field, that hardened my decision that if God willing I was to win the election, I was going to make the fight against galamsey one of my priorities. And we have done it. A whole cabinet committee has been established, headed by very eminent scientists, technologists, Professor Fimbom Boateng, and they are plotting the entire strategy as to what we can do to bring this phenomenon of galamsey to an end in our country.
In a response to a question to make public university education free, President Akufo-Addo said government is committed to making senior high school education free from September this year, and indicated that it may be extended to public universities in the future. On creating jobs for the youth, President Akufo-Addo said his administration is creating a business-friendly environment for the private sector to grow and create more jobs.
If we have a strong private sector in Ghana, we can get quick economic development in our country. But the private sector in recent years has been burdened by a lot of problems. And many of enterprises in Ghana face all kinds of crises. The boom saw, high rates of interest rates, the volatility of the currency, all kinds of problems, and also a lot of taxes. So we have begun. This year's budget took 1 billion cedis out of government revenues so that it will stay with the private sector to allow them to work and invest and grow the economy. We have also been able to find $100 million by way of a stimulus package for industrial enterprises. because that is the place we're going to create jobs for the young people. If our industry and manufacturing are working again, then we are going to start creating jobs in Ghana. And for that to happen, government has decided on a stimulus package, which the Ministry of Trade and Industry, under the direction of a man very capable, Alan Shematin, is doing to revive our industry.
Meanwhile, the president is advocating a shift from export of raw material to value addition. He's warning the African continent, especially sub-Saharan Africa, will continue to experience underdevelopment if value is not added to agricultural produce before export. Addressing a dinner held in his honor by the Guinean President Alpha Condé, Nana Akufo-Addo recollected his early years in Guinea 30 years ago when a fishing business he started did not go well.
30 years ago, I spent a lot of time here trying to set up a fishing business with a group of fellow Africans from Nigeria, Senegal, Cameroon, and Ghana. Even though, unfortunately, it did not succeed, it introduced me to a city and country that I came to love and still love. I'm happy that we reactivated the Permanent Joint Commission on Cooperation between our two countries in May 2013. This has seen us so far cooperate in the areas of defense, tourism, and energy. I have come here to build on these and explore further other areas of cooperation for the mutual benefit of our two peoples. A functioning common regional market in ECOWAS has to be a very fundamental objective of all our peoples and governments in the region, an objective that will consolidate the process of structural transformation of our national economies on which we must be engaged. There can be no future prosperity for our peoples in the short, medium, or long term if we continue to maintain economic structures that are dependent on the production and export of raw materials. We must add value to these resources, we must industrialize, and we must enhance agricultural productivity. To ensure the success of this ambitious program of economic transformation, we must secure the peace and stability of all parts of our region. I am thus relieved, and I'm sure I speak for all of us here, that the disturbing events of the last few days in our common neighboring state of Côte d'Ivoire have been brought to a satisfactory conclusion, and that good sense has prevailed and enabled the crisis to abate peacefully.
Now, President Akufo-Addo departed from Guinea Friday afternoon for Cape Verde, the last leg of the second phase of his West African tour. Now, government has announced that all is set for works to begin at the Intresso water project in the central Gonja district at a cost of $35 million. This, when completed, is expected to ease the water problem confronting most communities in the Gonja traditional area. The issues of water became a subject of campaign prior to the 2016 elections when the then President John Dramani Mahama chided the MPP for taking advantage of the water crisis situation as a campaign tool when they did not understand fully the severity of the issues concerning the water project in the area.
Addressing the chiefs and people of the Gonjaland traditional area on his first day of his 3-day visit to the northern region, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Mbaumia, said it is a major water project that government is keen to implement.
I have some good news. Clifford and the government and the Minister for Water, they've all put their heads together, and we are trying to solve this problem once and for all. We are moving for the extension to Yapi, Kusogo, and Sankpala of water from the Intresso treatment plant. Engineers have already visited the site and the survey has been made. What is very, very interesting is that the water plant at Intresso is only used by up to only 8% capacity, just 8%. So we are going to be able to pipe the water from the Intreso water plant to Yape, to Kusogo, and to Sampala, inshallah.
The Vice President also touched on the creation of a new region for the northern region.
The Minister for this whole regional configuration has been set up under the leadership of the Honorable Damboche.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, however, lamented about the recent potential conflicts, especially in chieftaincy matters in the Gonja traditional area.
Recently, we keep hearing of potential conflicts, especially in the area of chieftaincy. We want to plead that we all should respect the ultimate authority and supremacy of the Yebonwura as far as Gonja Traditional Council matters are concerned.
Now, the Crop Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research is warning Ghana's narrow food base could threaten its her food security. Principal research scientist Dr. Emmanuel Otu says expanding the options is critical to avert a potential crisis. He notes the recent successful release of 4 yam varieties, a major staple in the country, is one sure way Ghana can be food secured. Kwesi Deborah reports.
This is the yam section of the Kumasi Central Market, commonly known as Bode. Over 10,000 tons of yam arrive here every month. Akosia sells water yam known in Akan as afasie or afase. She has been doing this job for 36 years. Akosia is supported by her family of 5. I sell 2 types of water yam, she says, akaba and matches. The akaba is a bit expensive. As for matches, 3 go for 10 Ghana cedis. Apart from water yam, other varieties go for 20 Ghana cedis for the same number of tubers. In times like this, it's difficult to purchase, particularly for low-income families. I pound it into fufu to feed the whole family.
200. How many piastres?
In 2008, Egypt was hit by food crisis as a result of inflation amid rising global cost of wheat. Riots in bread queues were a common sight. With maize, plantain, cassava and yam as major staples, Ghana is said to have a narrow food base. Dr. Emmanuel Otu is head of Yam Improvement Tuber Division at the Crop Research Institute.
The recent food crisis that occurred in the world some few years back, all the French countries around us had some form of civil agitation because the price of wheat was going up and the bread that they depend on was becoming more and more expensive. We were spared because we have a bit of plantain, we have a bit of cassava, a bit of yam, and all that to go around. But we need to expand this food base so that at all times we will be assured of our food security.
Ghana is the second leading exporter of yam in West Africa, behind Nigeria. Ghana mainly consumes 5 varieties of yam. 4 of the yam varieties originate from the sub-region, with only water yam coming from Asia.
When it came, it was distributed using the matchbox. That is, if you can just cut it a small piece like a matchbox, and you can plant and still get your yield. So we often refer to it as matches.
Water yam is widely eaten across Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and Mali. Scientists, however, say it is prone to anthracnose, a fungal disease which attacks many vegetable, fruit and even tree plants. The Crops Research Institute, in collaboration with International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, has for the past 10 years worked on developing improved varieties of water yam with support from West Africa Agriculture Productivity Program. 4 different types emerged, resistant to anthracnose and nematodes, high-yielding and enhanced taste.
The first of these material is afesibri, which is a purple-colored water yam. It yields as much as almost 44 tons per hectare, compared to the 23 tons of the matches. We have afasipa, which also yields almost 26 tons per hectare. We have CRI Soyinto, which in Gonja means good yield and taste. Also very high yielding, good taste, good aroma, and gives us almost twice the benefits that you get from matches. You realize that if you invest 1 cedi in matches, that's the one that we know already, you are going to reap about 16, almost 17 cedis out of that. After taking out your costs, getting your profits, the balance that will be left with respect to every cedi that you invest is 17 cedis. For the improved ones, the least that you can get is 24 cedis, and the maximum that you can get is 44 cedis.
Government has launched planting for food and jobs with a promise of improved seeds. Will such planting materials be of the same old crops or new types, or varieties will be introduced to guarantee food security? Joseph Faron is Ashanti Regional Director, Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
Because Ghana is part of the international community, some Ghanaians also want the best. So the ministry provides a basket of opportunities. One opportunity is that you can pick the seed from the country, that is the open pollinated varieties in country, and then you can plant it. But there's also an opportunity for our trade partners to bring in some other material for sale. So the issue is adoption. If the farmer adopts the material and plants it and does all the agronomic practices associated with it, definitely he will also get a very good yield.
And is that enough to ensure food security? Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
Now, Kwesi Debra filed that report. Now, police at Adabraka here in Accra have arrested a former sales executive of the multimedia group, Paul Dalton, for defrauding the company. He is alleged to have collected money from the company's clients after he left the company.
In 2015 and early this year, Paul collected about 3,500 cedis from the client under the pretext he was taking the money on behalf of the multimedia group, but pocketed the amount. His acts were detected when a collection team visited the client to demand payment of the debt. Paul was picked up by police personnel after he was invited to the premises of the company on Friday.
Said the money was not paid to me as cash of 3,500. I chased him for almost 2 years now, and it was only last 2-3 months that he finished paying. So he was not paying cash like 100 Ghana, 200, sometimes 50 Ghana and all that. So it was bit, and it was difficult for me to even get transport to the office and come and pay and all that.
Paul appealed for more time to pay back the amount owed during the arrest.
I come to see you to give me time to pay.
But Human Resource Shared Services Manager at the Multimedia Group, Raymond Labi, says the company will allow the law to take its course.
There are 2 elements to the issue. The issue of he has not dealt well with the multimedia group. Secondly, it's an offense against the state. So for us, we will pursue the internal mechanism to recover the funds, and we also allow the courts or the police system to also take a due course. So it's left to the state to handle the criminal aspect. Within our rules, he has also flouted it, so we'll take steps to recover our money.
He had this caution for clients and others who deal with the company.
The best way to pay is either you issue a check in the name of the multimedia group so that no one will have access to those funds. And you are expected to get receipt after making those payments. So when you issue or you pay out money and you don't get receipt, you should be worried as a client. As a client, you should be worried. And when you also make payments in cash, you are also endangering the process. The best is to make it in the form of a check in the name of the business, and it will be credited into your account and you have value for it. So I want to advise most of our clients out there that we want to work with them, and they also have assured that they want to work with us. And if we work things out, we're able to improve the system.
And my name is Ara Wilkinson from the rest of the team. Thank you for joining us. Have a lovely weekend. Good night.
This is Joy News Prime.